Hi, welcome to Dating God. Today I want us to talk about something that God showed me throughout this lovely dating period. And it's a principle about dating that was so profound. And it's amazing what God can show you with some stories that you don't even expect such a principle to come from. And I want us to remind ourselves of a story in the Bible, in the book of Matthew, chapter number 14, and verse number 20 to 33. The Bible speaks of Jesus walking on water, and I know it rings a bell, right? And the Bible begins a story very interesting when Jesus is done ministering and he releases the disciples to cross over before as he remains releasing the people. Then the Bible says he retreats to the mountains to pray. And after a while, he looks in the sea and sees the boat has gone too far. And indeed, the boat was also being toasted here and there. The Bible records it was being buffeted by the wind. And Jesus decides to continue praying. And after a few hours, the Bible records in the morning, he begins to walk on water to go towards the boat. Drawing closer, the disciples see him, and the disciples realize and they want to ask themselves, is this a ghost? Then he tells them, do not be afraid, it is I. Then Peter says, Lord, if that is you, then I want to, come. And Peter actually says, ask me to come. So Jesus tells him, come. Remember, the boat is in the waters, there's still wind, but Peter walks on water. And the principle I want us to talk about today about dating God is focus. So Peter, focusing on Jesus, actually walks on water. Then the story goes that immediately Peter saw the wind. And so Peter shifted his focus a bit to the wind. And what happened? Fear came in, and Peter began to sink. And he cries out to the Lord. And Jesus stretches his hand and grabs him. But there's one interesting thing there that I wanted us to focus on today. That anytime we lose focus or start to focus away from our partner that we are dating, then we begin to sink, the relationship begins to sink. And the truth is that in our dating with God, there will always be winds that will always rock our boat. But notice this, even amidst the winds, Jesus is walking on the winds and the waters. And he tells you, focus on me and you will walk over the waters. But immediately we shift our focus towards the winds, towards the waves, and not on Jesus or on God, then what happens? We begin to sink. And so focus is very important in dating and in dating God. Like, for example, normally when we date, if you focus on your partner, the relationship goes well, right? And if you lose focus of your partner and start to focus on other things or other people or, other things, then what happens? The relationship begins to sink. And so I want you to just imagine, what are these winds that always makes you to lose focus from God? And when we lose that focus, we begin to sink. These things I've seen nowadays when people go out on a date, they sit there and then everyone else is starting to look at their phones. Is there focus? And how would you feel if you go out to date someone and then he's on his phone 24 hours or, all the time, right? The focus is not there. And the moment we shift focus from God, then we begin to sink. The moment we shift focus and started focusing on the wind, Peter sank. And it's interesting, Jesus tells him, why are you of little faith? Because you're full of doubt. So immediately we shift focus, then we start to doubt things, we start to doubt God, we start to focus on the wind, we forget that the God himself is walking on those waves and winds, and we now imagine that the winds are much more stronger, and we forget we have actually been walking on the waves and on the water. So the moment we shift focus, then our relationship begins to sink. One thing I learned is that focus is deliberate, that focus will be required, and there will be so many things that want to take your attention from your partner. And I believe your partner here is God. And even this can apply to our normal relationship. If you focus on your partner, you win. If you start focusing on other things, then the relationship goes down. So I want to close by saying focus is important, and let's focus on God and not focus on other things. I want you to share with me maybe some of the things that make us lose focus on our comment section. We'll be able to read, and see you in the next video.